One of my clients told me this story. He said my girlfriend took a break from me and spent the summer with another guy, just so she could be sure. This was a premeditated decision. In the spring of that year, we were both in college and had been together 6 years at that point. I was unaware, but she had been talking to one of the guys in her class. Their feelings grew. She swore she never cheated or did anything physical or even met him outside of class. But they did have a lot of text conversations for the months leading up to her wanting to take a break from our relationship. Just as the semester ended, she sat me down and told me she was going to go stay with him for the summer. He had just finished school and was moving to a new city and had an apartment lined up. She was going to stay with him for June and July, then return for our senior year. She offered me her phone and said I could read everything that was there. She wanted me to know she had not cheated. I was a mess. I love her immensely and did then as well. I was begging her to not do this. She tried to be as comforting and consoling as possible, but at the same time she was adamant that she was going to do this. Her main reasoning being we had only ever been with each other and she needed to know she wasn't missing out. I couldn't even begin to guess how many times she said she still loved me, still saw a potential future between us, and she was doing this just to be sure. She even encouraged me to date. She left 5 days after this conversation. I tried so hard to get her to stay, but she went. I worked and did nothing else those entire 2 months. I didn't socialize. I barely ate. I barely slept. I went from 185 pounds to 165 pounds. She asked me to not contact her. I respected that. I was living in our apartment. Everything was a reminder, a trigger. It was the worst, most painful time of my life. I knew she would return even if not for me. We still had a year to go in college, and she did return, 1 week sooner than expected. It was a Sunday and she just showed up at the apartment. She broke down in tears upon seeing me. I was so much thinner, eyes sunken. She told me she knew just from looking at me that she had destroyed me. We both cried for a long time. She was so apologetic. She said she knows now that she wants me and only me. I was more than willing to take her back. We had a tense honeymoon phase upon her return, where we were both tiptoeing around each other, spending lots of time together, but also having this elephant in the room. That lasted a month or so when I started having the anxiety attacks. This is when we finally started to address some of the issues, which we had largely avoided. It couldn't have been timed worse as our classes started again soon after. Over the next 9 months or so, I became more and more depressed. I was verbally abusive at times. Zoe took it, everything I said. She always tried to reassure me, always took responsibility. I asked all the time what I had lacked. What could I do better? Why wasn't I good enough? What more did she need? She always said I was great the way I was, that she made the choice she did, not because any fault of my own, but out of her own immaturity. We discussed what her life those 7 weeks was like. Obviously, it was a full sexual relationship. They went on dates. They slept in the same bed. They showered together, which was our thing, at least to me it was.